You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, and welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast, episode 116. Ain't that crazy? I would say it is, just a tad. But anyways, today, what are we talking about, Sam? I hear you ask. We're talking about the boys out in, whether they be playing here in North America or in Europe. I'm going to give you a rundown a little bit of the week that some of our Canadian boys did in fact have. But first, Canada Soccer has announced the nominees for both men and women's player of the year for Canada. So I'm going to read you off some of those nominees and let you know kind of what I think, who I think may be voted as the winner for each, and maybe give you my opinion on who should, in my opinion, win. So on the women's side, we have Aladou Vanessa Gilles, the reigning Women's Player of the Year. Leon, Emma Regan, Riviere, Janine Sinise, I was about to say Janine Becky, my fault. Holly Ward, and Shalina Zadorsky. Pretty solid lineup if you ask me. Who I think will be voted in? I'm not too sure. I think they could go one of two ways because Riviere had a very good year. Or I could see them going with maybe one of the women that play in the NSL, maybe like an Emma Regan or a Holly Ward. Both had great years in the inaugural year of the league, so I think that could really cap off quite the phenomenal year for the debut of the NSL. Of then cherry on top of also the best women's Canadian soccer player plays in the NSL. Do you know what I mean? Like I could see maybe that being a case. Not to say that they don't deserve it, because my vote would actually lie with Emma Regan. And remember, this is voted on by Canadian soccer media and everyone whatnot. I did not get a voter's ballot, so I'm going to have words with Canada Soccer because where's my ballot? I would like a vote, please. But no, seriously, I think those are probably maybe the three front runners. I'll be interested to see who does win it on the women's side. But yeah, we'll move over to the men's side of it. Ali Ahmed, Tajon Buchanan, Jonathan David, Promise David, Richie Larea, Tani Oluwaseyi, Nico Seeger, and Dane St. Clair. This one is tough for me because I feel like Canada soccer media is really high on Richie Larea right now, so I could see him getting the vote. Not once again, I feel like if the way I'm wording this may not be great. It feels like it's like, oh yeah, they're just going to give him the award because he has had a great year. My thing that would hold me back from saying Richie Larea is he was kind of in and out the TFC lineup with some injuries. He was great for Canada, and I can't remember how Canada judges this award, if it's just on what they did for the national team or if it's both the national team and club level. I can't remember. All these awards are always scored differently. But if it's also club level, I could I could see Dane St. Clair squeaking in there because he did win MLS Goalkeeper of the Year. And then, of course, Jonathan David, who I think had a great first half of the year, but maybe a bit quieter of a second half to the year. It's some competition. It's some competition for sure. My vote would actually, of these guys, probably go with Tajon Buchanan. I think as far as a calendar year goes, I think he was our most consistent player. This is probably the closest the award's been in quite some time. I feel like over the last couple of years, it's mainly always been Alphonso Davies. And then last year was Jonathan David, and it was pretty clear that it should be, it should be Alphonso Davies, or it should be, Jonathan David. Whereas I think this year, you could genuinely look at any of these 8 guys and go, they each have a strong case for this. So I'll be interested to see who will get the awards. But for Maple Footy, we will be doing our year-end review for Canada Soccer, where I will give you some of my players of the year for men and women, and also a bunch of other stuff that I did last year, like best games, best moments, best transfers, best young player, all that fun stuff. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be dropping within the next few weeks for sure. But let us move on from the award ceremony here and move into some Canadian soccer news. Starting out with some transfer news here out of the MLS. Canadian Mathieu Choinière is extending his stay with LAFC on a permanent basis. He, of course, was on loan with them for the latter stages of last season with LAFC. I thought he did pretty well. I think there were times where he may have been hard done by and not starting a number of games. But for the most part, I think this was a good way to get his club career back on track because the Grasshopper move sadly didn't work out for him, which I think is a shame because he is a player that I think could have done well in Europe. But now I'm not sure that chance is going to come up again. That being said, I do think that LAFC is a very good place to be. They've been one of the best teams in the MLS since their inception. And also playing with a guy like Son is, not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, I believe it was a 2-year contract. It said it in the Instagram post, and I did not write it down here. I believe it was 2026 and 27, and then with the option for 28, I think. But yeah, so that I think that's good because I do think that he will get more and more playing time here, which is ideal going into a World Cup year, of course. And yeah, I think a player of his talent should feel a little bit hard done by with how the Grasshopper situation did play out, because I do actually think that there was a place for him there and a place for him in Europe. But sadly, we didn't see it pan out, and I think the way that a lot of us would have thought it could have for a player of Choinière's caliber. But as I said, that being said, LAFC isn't the worst place to go. And being an MLS regular, I don't think in the year of 2025, going into 2026 is a bad thing. This isn't like, 20 years ago, where people would be like, oh, the MLS not as good. But I mean, people do still say that. My point being is I think that there is quality in the league, and I do think this is still a good landing spot for him. Another potential transfer here. This one has not been confirmed, but a lot of sources are saying that TFC are finalizing a deal for U.S. men's national team center back Walker Zimmerman from Nashville. So I think that would be quite the good deal for TFC, to be honest with you. I think he is a very good center back, still only 32, so still a couple, I would say probably 2 to 3 years that you could get out of him that could be class years. He's done well in Nashville over the last number of years. And of course, as I said, has been a regular for the men's national team for the States for quite a bit. So I think that could be good for TFC. I would like to see a little bit more movement in the defensive department for them, because I do think that is one of the things that really needs a lot of things need addressing for TFC at the moment. But if they want to take this rebuild seriously, I think that they really, really, really need to assess their back line and obviously the goalkeeping situation with Sean Johnson leaving. I know that Maxime Crepeau has been listed as a potential option for TFC. If I was him, I'd be all over that. I think that they have to go for him, as he is leaving Portland, so I don't know why they wouldn't. I did see also rumors swirling that Dane St. Clair could be in the running for TFC goalkeeper because his contract at Minnesota is up. Minnesota do want to keep him, but there have been rumors about a bunch of MLS teams, apparently TFC being one of them, could be interested, and then some clubs in the English Championship as well are apparently interested in him, as per some reports. So we'll have to wait and see. As far as other defenders I think TFC could go for, there's no links here. I wouldn't mind seeing them go for, like a Kamal Millar. I think Kamal Millar could do great for TFC. Playing back in Canada as well, I think would be really good for him too, playing with some of his international teammates, especially ahead of the World Cup year, hoping that Kamal Millar is on said plane. And then another Canadian that I think that you could really look at is Kyle Hebert. I know I always say him. I think that he is one of our underrated players that is kind of always hard done by a little bit. So I would like to see maybe get a move to TFC because he's also very versatile too. He can play right back, left back, and center back. I think that could do really well for TFC, who kind of need something in everywhere. I think their midfield needs some help as well as their attack. So yeah, I think that this rebuild year for the 20th year running for a rebuild for TFC? Feels like it. I'm kidding. That's obviously me exaggerating. But it feels like the last at least 5 seasons has been a, quote, rebuild season for TFC. And I think that maybe Walker Zimmerman is the first step in making that kind of legit, you know? I mean, Mihailovic being their DP at the end of last season, I think is a big step forward. I actually really liked his signing, and now maybe the Walker Zimmerman signing, if that does go through, which it looks like pending any last-minute collapse, it will go through. Hopefully I didn't just jinx it, knocking on wood. And then, yeah, I think that after that they need to – I don't think that this is enough. They're going to need to keep going is my point that I'm making here. They got to keep going with it. Moving into the CPL now, a couple of signings for Supra that have been made official. I'm not going to delve too deep into these because I did kind of talk about them last Canadian breakdown before they were made official because their names had been swirling for quite a bit. So they have officially announced their first signings, and I think that they are some good ones here. David Chouanier from Forge FC will be going to Supra. Sean Rea from Halifax will be going to Supra. And Loic Quemi will also be going to Supra. I think those are some very good signings. Rumors also swirling that Balou Tabla might be joining them as well. So, yeah, I think that there's a couple of good signings. 3 good signings, really. Those are 3 very good inaugural signings. I think, as I've said in the past, Sean Rea, on his day, is one of the best players in the CPL. David Chouanier was going to bring you a lot of experience. I was a bit critical of him last season. I didn't think he had a great season with Forge this season that just passed, but you do know that there is quality there. And, I mean, it might have just been an offseason. Every player has those. So, yeah, I think that those are some very good signings there. If they also get Tabla, I think that that is huge. If I was him, I'd also be looking at some more guys from teams, well, a team like Valor, who did sadly just fold. I do think that that could... There's a good few players there that I think could do wonders there. I mean, if I was any CPL team, I'd be looking at a lot of the players from Valor because I do think there was a lot of quality players there. So that's just me. If you're a CPL agent, definitely go check out Valor because I think that there's a lot of good players there, and it'd be a shame to see them not picked up. But moving into the coaching side of things, we'll stick with the CPL because huge news, in my opinion, for the CPL. Halifax have confirmed their head coach going into this new season, and he's none other than Vanni Sartini. If that name is familiar, it is because he was the coach of the Whitecaps, not this season that just passed, but the season prior. And, I mean, he was there for a couple years, actually. But regardless, this is huge, I think, for the CPL because he has a respected name, in my opinion, at least around these Maple Footy parts, in Canadian soccer. He won the Voyageurs Cup 3 times with the Vancouver Whitecaps. Of course, took them to the playoffs, I believe, most years in which he was the manager. And, you know, started out as the Vancouver Whitecaps assistant coach and then also made his way through at the U23s, managing them as well. And now will be going to Halifax Wanderers. I think that is big, guys. Like, just because... As I said, I feel like he's pretty respected, and he brings quite the name, and immediately brings that legitimacy to the league of, hey, you know what? I was an MLS coach and has been successful in the MLS. Like, he's been a successful head coach in the MLS, and now I'm coming to the CPL. I think that helps grow the league immensely with this one move. I think that's huge, huge, huge. I think also that makes Halifax one of the favorites immediately going into next season because he, in my opinion, is quite good. So I'm very excited about this. I think that is huge. I think if you're a Halifax fan, I can't see a world where you're complaining about this because this is massive. The talk is always, oh, will a CPL guy go to the MLS? Maybe that topic now is maybe they don't have to go to the MLS. You can maybe make a career in the CPL, whether it be player, coach, what have you, because a successful MLS coach has just come to the CPL, and I think that is very big news. So very excited about that. Going to be excited to see what he can do with Halifax, because as I said, I do think that this makes them immediate favorites going into next season. More coaching news. Although he's not Canadian, nor is he managing a Canadian side, I am going to say Michael Bradley. Just before I clicked record on here, it has been made official. He will be the head coach of the New York Red Bulls next season. I'm really happy for him. I've always liked Michael Bradley. I think he did, even though, as I said, not Canadian, he did a lot for Canadian soccer during his time at TFC, helped make TFC a legitimate team, really. Was, of course, the captain when they won the MLS Cup, captained them to many Voyageurs Cup, captained them in 3 MLS Cup finals, Supporters Shield, pretty long legacy there. In my opinion, if they did do things like statues here for athletes in soccer, I would say Michael Bradley would probably get a statue outside of BMO Field, because he has done more than enough to warrant one. So, yeah, I think that's really happy for him. Always been a fan of Michael Bradley. Hope that his coaching career goes just as well as his playing career, because I think he had quite the good playing career. And finally, Jesse Marsch is, in reports, in talks to extend his deal with the Canadian men's national team ahead of the 2026 World Cup. That is interesting because Canada, I guess, obviously have been pleased with what Jesse Marsch has done and now want to lock him in for, it didn't say a specified amount of years, but I guess want to lock him in past the World Cup. So that'll be interesting to see if that comes to fruition. It will be interesting to see if the deal is actually played out as well, because if Canada has success at the World Cup and Jesse Marsch impresses, I wouldn't be surprised to see teams come in for him to try and make him maybe go back to club level or maybe a different international team. But yeah, we'll wait and see. But yeah, really interesting there, because I do think that kind of works both ways. Maybe Canada's going, maybe Jesse Marsch might leave. So maybe we could get, if he does leave, someone might have to buy his contract out and we get a little bit of cash, So we'll see how that one plays out. I'll be interested to see if it gets confirmed or not. But that brings me to an end with the North American side of things. Let's take a flight to Europe and see what our European fellas are doing. So, of course, the biggest European news for Canada soccer, at least, was that Alphonso Davies did make his return for Bayern Munich in the Champions League following his ACL injury. He came on for their final few minutes against Sporting Lisbon in a game in which they won 3-1. He came on for Gnabry in the 88th minute, so he got 2 minutes of regular, and then about four-ish. We'll round up to 5 minutes of stoppage time. So that is very good. Of course, it's great to have Alphonso Davies back. Still is our best player when fit, because he's just... There's no other Alphonso Davies. Do you know what I mean? There's no other way I can put it. He's one of one. There isn't another guy that can do what Alphonso Davies can do. I think he's great defensively, great going forward, recovery pace. He's got it all. I think and of course, he's just so important for the program, as you well know if you've followed the program and Alphonso Davies' career. And then, of course, at the weekend, he got even more time, got about 30 minutes against Frankfurt in a 2-2 draw for Bayern Munich, even picked up his first yellow card of the season. So that's always nice. But yeah, he looks, obviously, he doesn't look the Alphonso Davies that you expect. He looks a little bit rusty, which is, of course, to be expected. Like, come on. But you can still see his Alphonso Davies traits to him. There was a clip of him already showing off his recovery pace when Bayern had a corner and then it didn't really go their way. Could have been caught in the counter. Who's back from inside the opponent's 18-yard box, rushing back to make a play, defensive stop. It's Alphonso Davies. So yeah, for me, as long as he's healthy, he should be. I don't even know how this is a debate anymore. He should be our starting left back at the World Cup. He just should be. I'm sorry, I know Richie Larea has deputized greatly back there, and that it is harsh on Richie Larea. If Alphonso Davies, of course, is healthy come the World Cup, for Larea to not be in the starting 11. But my thing is Alphonso Davies when healthy, is a top 3 at worst left back in the world. You can't play him anywhere other than left back going into the World Cup. That's my opinion. I know that he, quote unquote, can play left wing, but he has not played consistent left wing since he was a teenager, So I just don't think it's a wise move to play him anywhere other than left back. You have one of the best in the world in that position. You have to play them in that position. And I do understand super harsh on Richie Larea, who has done more than enough to warrant a starting spot in the World Cup. Obviously pending everyone is healthy, because there is still a long way to go. But just off of right now, I know that that's a big topic in Canadian soccer. But for me, I think it has to be Alphonso Davies, because it just has to be. Like, I'm sorry. He's one of the best in the world where he plays. Playing him anywhere else, to me, is just, it doesn't make sense. And I know, sorry to Richie, but of course having Richie Larea off the bench isn't the worst thing in the world either, really. So that's what I think. I'll break that down a bit more in depth at a later date. But yeah, for now, Alphonso Davies is back. Really, really happy about it, because this program, this team really needs him. We need that superstar player that he is. He is also the captain of the national team, and of course, as I said, is our best player. So really happy to have him back, hoping that he can stay healthy now for the remainder of the season going into the World Cup. I think it'll be really good for him to get back in amongst the regular minutes, back in amongst the team, both the national team and at Bayern too. So I think it's very exciting to have Alphonso Davies back. Now moving into the English Championship, Daniel Jebbison enjoyed himself quite the week. He grabbed his 4th goal of the season against Frank Lampard's Coventry City, and that is big because Coventry City is top of the league in the English Championship, have enjoyed an amazing run to start this season, and Jebbo's Preston only had 10 men when Jebbison scored the equalizer to make it 1-1. They held on. So that's a huge point and a huge goal for Daniel Jebbison. And then to build on that, scored again against Oxford at the weekend for Preston. So he is enjoying himself quite the season. That's 5 goals so far this season. I think that's a pretty good takeaway. And I think building himself a case to be brought back in a little bit from the cold into the national team. He's doing well, showing that he's still got it. Saying it like he's like 38. He's 21 or 22, showing that he can pop the goals in the back of the net. I think that is something that Canada has struggled with. If you're a listener to the podcast, I've been quite vocal about that really since the inception of Maple Footy. But he's showing that maybe he could offer a different flavor. I think getting him reintegrated with the national team setup, I think could be big and really help him, because anytime he did play for the national team, you could see there's a player here with potential, but he looked very unsure of his surroundings, almost like he was playing with guys he never played before with, and that's kind of what happened. He never played with them, so that's kind of what it looked like. So I'd like to see him maybe reintegrated into the national team. And let's see what he can do. I know that right now our striker depth is quite long in theory, but also we haven't really had a guy take the spot, Like in theory, we have, 5 or 6 guys that could be our striker alongside Jonathan David, but nobody has really grabbed it, in my opinion, by the scruff of the neck, and has really made it their own, in my humble opinion. But elsewhere in the English Championship, the Hive was buzzing, because Liam Millar made his return again following his hamstring injury about a month-ish ago. So very, very happy. As you know, I absolutely adore Liam Millar. I think he's great. Is just so much fun to watch. I love what he does. I was so happy when he was included in the bench, and then of course did in fact get on. He went 25 minutes in his return against Wrexham at midweek. So Liam Millar showing that he is that guy. And then of course during his second match following return over the weekend, he started against Millwall. went about 66 minutes and picked himself up a yellow card, kind of like Alphonso Davies, but more importantly, picked himself up another assist this season. So really happy for Liam Millar. I think if he can stay healthy, he could be big for us at the World Cup next year. And not saying that, if we have Liam Millar, we're going to win the whole thing. But I do think that he brings a different flavor in our attacking options. I think he's just a different option as opposed to what we have compared to, like a Tajon Buchanan or an Ali Ahmed, a Jaden Nelson, a Jacob Schaffelberg. Liam Millar feels like a guy that's going to create something, maybe from nothing. He's got great footwork, great chance creation, what have you, great with the ball at his feet. So I think that he could be very important to us come the World Cup once again, so long he stays healthy, knock on wood. But yeah, really happy that Liam Millar is back. The Liam Millar Hive is always up and buzzing. But of course, we're always buzzing a little bit harder when Liam Millar is playing and is succeeding. So Maple Footy, you heard it here, is the home of the Liam Millar Hive, if you didn't already know. But moving into some other boys, some other guys. Tani Oluwaseyi grabbed his first Champions League goal of his career for Villarreal, sadly in a 3-2 loss to Copenhagen. But at the time, the goal did bring Villarreal back level with Copenhagen. So it wasn't all for naught, in a sense. But yeah, really, really good for Oluwaseyi, who is kind of adapting to Villarreal, has racked himself up a couple goals, adding a little bit more fuel to the fire for Jesse Marsch trying to pick a striker. I have always maintained I like Tani Oluwaseyi. At club level, he scores goals, no problem. It comes down to when he puts on the red for Canada, where I feel like he struggles, and we've seen it in, I think, basically every one of his caps, where he maybe could have done better with a chance, should have done better with a chance, and he just doesn't. And I think going into a World Cup, you're going to need a guy that can score. So if he can start scoring at national team level like he does at club level, I think we could be good. The problem is will he start doing that? I don't know. So time will tell who Jesse Marsch will pick to start alongside Jonathan David. And two, if Tani Oluwaseyi will be able to replicate his club form at the national team level. I hope he can, because it would be, one, good for him, and two, good for Canada. But yeah, getting his first Champions League goal is huge. He did not play on the weekend, nor did Tajon Buchanan, as Villarreal games was actually postponed because of weather conditions. So there was no game at the weekend to report on for Villarreal and our two Canadian boys playing there. In the Champions League as well, Jonathan David, the Iceman, scored for Juventus against Pacos. Once again, enjoying a little bit of a spell here, which I think is good. He didn't score at the weekend in the Serie A, but he is starting to look more comfortable when he's playing. I think that, as I keep saying, if Juventus give him chances, I do think that he will come good. I think you're seeing that now with some of the chances he has already gotten. So my thing is he needs to find some consistency with putting the ball in the back of the net. It's great to have great performances, don't get me wrong. But as a striker, regardless of how good he plays, he's going to be judged on how many goals he gets. So keep playing well, don't get me wrong. But also needs to be putting the ball in the back of the net consistently now for Juventus. This is his time, I think, with Vlahovic out injured. I do think that he really needs to take advantage of this. So we'll see what the future holds for Jonathan David at Juventus. But I think this goal against Pacos could be, hopefully, maybe helping in the turning point for his Juve career. Time will tell, of course. Going to Belgium now, because a couple of our boys had some good weekends in Belgium. Promise David grabbed, you guessed it, another goal for Union in a 1-1 draw, as Union remain top of the league there by 3 points on Club Brugge. So, once again, Promise David enjoying quite the season with Union. He's looking... Is it possible for him to look better and better? But no, he is looking better and better, looking like he's maturing as well with his all-around play. I've always thought his all-around play has been quite good, but now it feels like he's even more comfortable, getting more accustomed to the league maybe, and his hold-up play, his ability on the ball. He's looking better and better, which I think is very good for Canada. There were also rumors that West Ham were in for him. Apparently, Promise David's camp have nixed those rumors. Apparently, he does not want to go from Champions League football with Union to a relegation battle with West Ham, which I will say is quite the courageous move, because going to the Premier League is a lot of guys' dreams. And for him to go, no. I don't want to join a relegation battle when I'm playing Champions League football. Kind of just shows, I think, the mentality that Promise David does have. So we'll see if West Ham comes back in for him, maybe offer him a ton of money, or, if other Premier League sides go in for him. But yeah, credit to Promise David. I think that might actually be a smart move for him at this moment in his career. So credit to him and his camp for going, no. Champions League is quite the good place to be with a team that is in another league title push. So, yeah, that's pretty awesome. Good for you, Promise. Elsewhere in Belgium, the best Saliba in world football continued his fine season. Nathan Saliba scored the first in a comeback win, 2-1, for Anderlecht. So really happy for him. As I have said for quite some time, I'm a big Saliba fan. As I said, best Saliba in world football. And yeah, he is enjoying just quite the debut season for Anderlecht, which I don't think is a surprise to many who have followed his career, because he was very good with Montreal. And then once he kind of integrated himself into the national team, and now with Anderlecht, he's looking just like he's developing even quicker, and I think it could be very, very scary for some teams at the World Cup when they have to come up against the best Saliba in world football. But yeah, he's just one of those guys where you can just see it with him. Just the class he exudes on the ball, the way he plays, adding that goal-scoring trait now to his game. I think that he could be, well, he already is one to watch for Canada, but he could be one to properly watch heading into this World Cup of maybe it's only one season with Anderlecht and someone might pick him up. So once again, as I keep saying with a lot of these guys, time will tell. But yeah, really, really happy for Saliba, because he is doing just so good out in Belgium at the moment. So hopefully he keeps it up and keeps on proving him why he is the best Saliba in world football. And I wanted to end our player recaps by finishing with Ismail Kone, who enjoyed himself quite the weekend and performance against AC Milan. He went to the San Siro and scored in the San Siro, hitting the cleanest knee slide you will see from a Canadian this season, I think. He put his team up 1-0 in the 13th minute before they fell to 2-1, and then in the 77th, Sassuolo got their second to take it 2-2, and that is where the game finished at 2-2. That result took AC Milan from top of the table down to second, so it just shows you the level of opponent that they were in fact playing. I'm so happy for Kone after his name was dragged through the mud via Marseille. So really happy that he has proven him wrong, showing how good he is, showing this is, in my opinion, the first time in a long time that we've seen Ismail Kone show on a consistent week-by-week basis of how good he is. We have always known how good he is since his time at Montreal and then, of course, Watford. But, at Montreal, he was the young kid breaking through and whatnot. And then at Watford, still a young guy. He did well at Watford and then goes to Marseille, doesn't go as planned, gets his loan move to Rennes, where, he was in and out the starting 11, what have you. So it's been a while since we've seen Ismail Kone show on a week-by-week basis of how good he can be. But now we are seeing just how good he can be on a week-by-week basis, showing just so much talent, so much class, scoring against one of the biggest teams in one of the biggest stadiums in the world. So that is absolutely massive. So happy for him. He's enjoying just such a great spell with Sassuolo. He's not looking out of place at all. And as I said about Nathan Saliba, I will say also about Ishmael Kone, there could be some teams coming in for him come the end of this season because he is really showing that quality that we've always known that he has had. So I'm just hoping that his season remains healthy and that he can kind of keep building on these performances that he is putting in because, man, oh man, he's looking quite good. I'm going to end this off with some potential friendly news that has been doing the rounds for a couple weeks. This is my first time mentioning some of these friendlies, but regardless, looking at the 2026 friendlies window, Canada are apparently looking like they're finalizing a friendly window in January, opponents TBD. Then in March, it's looking like they will be facing off against an African side. Tunisia or Algeria are the rumors. These are all from Joshua Cloak, I hope I'm saying that name right, from Twitter, and then retweeted, who I follow, by Toronto Maple Leaf FC on Twitter. So very, very exciting here. And then, of course, June, the friendly that I have discussed in the past, Germany looking like it could still be happening in June. I really hope that one happens. I would love to see where we stack up against Germany. In my opinion, one of the best international sides in the world. So it'd be really cool to see where we can stack up against them heading into the World Cup. I think that would be a huge test for Canada. And I think it would be, as I said, just great to see where we could stack up against Germany. Could we, maybe get a draw out of that game, maybe a huge upset, or maybe we get blown out, But regardless, at least we'll kind of know where to gauge it coming into the World Cup of, okay, we did this against Germany, whether it was a win, loss, or a draw. And then we can see kind of going into the World Cup, say we do get Italy. Maybe we can then go, okay, well, we did this against Germany. Maybe it adds a little bit of belief to the Canadian men's national team. I don't know. But regardless, I think the Germany one would be very exciting. I think all of these are quite exciting. So that is really, really cool. I hope that these do happen because, one, more games for me to talk about and watch for the national team. And two, I think as many international windows as you can get for these guys to get together and be together, train together, play together ahead of the World Cup, I think is super beneficial because that World Cup, I know it's only 6-ish months away, and I know Sam, that's still quite some time. It is, but it really isn't, especially given the fact that they're really only going to have two, because I know we're going to have a June friendly window, but for me, that I know it's not the World Cup, but that's a part of the World Cup window in a sense. Obviously those friendlies, are a different level of stature compared to a World Cup match. But my point is, the guys that will be playing in said June window will probably be the guys at the World Cup. So for me, it's like that's kind of the same window in a sense, if that makes sense. So for me, the March and the January windows could be really huge for some guys maybe on the periphery trying to get into a World Cup spot, and also just for these guys to get some games together ahead of that June window, plus, of course, the World Cup. So I really do hope that these all do happen. I know Jesse Marshall's also been quite vocal about getting Montreal involved in the World Cup festivities, so I wouldn't be shocked if the June friendly window takes place in Montreal. So, hey, Montreal are hosting Germany and Canada. That's not a bad get for Montreal. Let's be real here. But, yeah, really excited for these potentially happening. And as I said, I think that it's very beneficial if these do happen heading into the World Cup because the more these guys will play together, I think the more comfortable they can get with each other going into what will be a hopefully big World Cup for Canada. That does bring to an end, though, this episode of the Maple Footy Podcast. I hope you enjoyed episode 116. That ain't that crazy. But yeah, really looking forward to a lot of what's going on in Canada soccer right now, really. Some really fun things could be on the horizon for the program, and hoping that they really capitalize on this and the World Cup as a whole. But yeah. We'll see what they could do. But I hope you enjoyed this. As you know, I will be talking about it every week, especially leading up to the World Cup. Some fun stuff planned going forward. So definitely stick around for a lot of that stuff. And Yeah, follow me on all the things that play at the start and end of the episode. Really do appreciate that. And until next time, cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.